Something pretty extraordinary is happening in Elite Dangerous right now. The goal is to create a new launch site for the upcoming event, Distant Worlds 3. And this is going to be created far outside of the bubble, many hundreds of light years in fact. Specifically, the goal is to create a colony in one of the most beautiful areas in the game. In order to achieve this, a huge number of players are involved in a pre-event for Distant Worlds 3. This in itself is a player-run event and it's called the Shoulder of Orion, and it's happening right now. So the idea here is to use the brand new system of colonization with the Elite Dangerous Trailblazers update in order to chain together a whole load of star systems extending from the inhabited bubble of humanity all the way out to the Orion Nebula, or the cluster of nebula around that area. As I've been talking, you've seen some of the footage on the screen of that area and it is strikingly beautiful, albeit that this is some pretty old footage that I captured in the earlier days when I used to fly around there, and I haven't been back there recently, so I'm very much looking forward to getting out that way again. The way this all works right now then, the way it's looking is that, well, let's look at the galaxy map. We're starting off here at the Sol system. All of these purplish pink triangles represent inhabited star systems. As we move along, you'll see some of these triangles, one just going off the bottom of the screen right now, that have cranes on top of them. They look a little bit like flags. These represent star systems that have outposts under construction. Either way, these triangles all represent different states of claimed star systems. And you can see there is a lot of them. Just look at all these different areas, absolutely tons of them. The important thing here though is that right now these are all pretty much centered around the bubble, around the original areas of the game that were inhabited when Frontier themselves deployed the game. But you can see also that as we click on some of these symbols here, some of these systems, a few of them are now under construction. There's this one here, primary port under construction. So that gives you a bit of an indication of how this will work. Now the way colonization works is that you can only inhabit a new system, you can only colonize a new system that is 10 light years away from a currently colonized star system. So you can't just go out hundreds of light years into the unknown and randomly colonize a star system there. So what's happening in order to get to the Orion Nebula and the Barnard's Loop cluster, players are chaining together star systems. You can see this big long chain here. This is coming a little bit to the end there, right at the currently last active colonized system. This has been happening over the course of a few days since the 30th of March, and they're already at over 50 star systems colonized. So it's still a long way to go, but based upon the progress so far, it looks as though it's very likely to happen in the not too distant future. That is, reaching the goal over there in the distance, that absolutely gorgeous looking nebula. The goal then is to create a staging area where the new upcoming expedition of Distant Worlds 3, the player-run event that's set to launch in early 2026, in January 2026, will actually launch from. This will be the launch site, the foundational starting point, and it's going to be entirely player-created. Now there's a few reasons this is both important as well as very interesting. Firstly, because it's so visually appealing over here. This is one of my favourite areas in the game, the Horsehead Nebula. Unfortunately, as you can see, many of the systems over here are permit restricted. You can't actually get into them. And that means, unfortunately, not only can they not be colonised, but you simply cannot jump into them. Slightly further out though, slightly over this way, there are accessible star systems, and that means that players are free to explore around here. And if we can get star systems colonised out this way, players are going to be able to capture and gather some of these star systems for themselves. They're going to be able to basically make one of these their very own star system. And this is kind of important because ever since day one in late 2014, players have pretty much always wanted to fly around Barnard's Loop as well as spend time in there. I remember 2015, a lot of players were actively asking for starports to be set up around here. Unfortunately, it never really happened. Despite this being, in my opinion, the most beautiful area in the entire game, Frontier have never made active use of it, and it really does baffle my mind to wonder why that is. But ultimately, it doesn't matter any longer because fine, we'll do it ourselves. And that's why I really like the idea of this Shoulder of Orion event, because it serves multiple purposes. Firstly, it gets player involved in the current colonization system, expanding out with a common goal here of reaching out to Barnard's Loop and the Orion Nebula systems. Secondly, it will establish a permanent colony over there, which will serve as a staging ground and a launch site for the Distant Worlds 3 expedition. And thirdly, it will also act as a permanent colonized system in the Orion Cluster. And that means from there, players will be able to expand out and take their own star systems, colonizing them with their own stations. There is a slight downside to all of this, unfortunately. You remember those permit-locked systems that I mentioned that are in Barnard's loop? Yes, there are a lot of them there. And that means that despite the number of stars that are available around that area, not all of them are accessible. And this means there's going to be stiff competition for players claiming, as well as putting their own star pools out there. So yeah, unfortunately, whilst it's absolutely certain that a lot of players are going to want to have their own starports in an area as beautiful as this one, not everyone is going to get that opportunity. So that, with that in mind, I'd hope and perhaps even request that Frontier finally remove the permit-locked restrictions around here. Initially, everyone always believed back when they were permit-locked, and I believe they were permit-locked in either 2015 or 2016. They certainly weren't permit-locked when the game was released in 2014. These locks come in a little bit later, and people believed that was largely due to the fact that at some point Frontier would want to use them for A, either expansions, or B, some sort of story device. As yet, 10 years after the game's launched, they haven't been used for either. In fact, there's a whole load of other permit-locked regions around the entire galaxy, many of them with absolutely thousands of star systems inside of them, and some of them are located near beautiful nebulas like this one, and that is what's always been bizarre to me, that Frontier would take what's arguably one of the best looking areas in the game and then lock much of it off from player access. Fine, if they want to do this for future expansions, but after 10 years, come on, it hasn't yet happened. It seems unlikely it's going to happen. And now, with colonization here and players finally reaching out to that area, I think now is perhaps as good a time as any, if not the best time, to actually remove these permit-locked restrictions. So how about that one, Frontier? Could you perhaps go ahead and do that? I think it would be a fantastic option. But either way, for now, that is kind of besides the point, because the main focus is on the Shoulder of Orion expedition, the Shoulder of Orion event rather, where players are slowly going to colonize out towards this direction. Now, if you're interested in getting involved in this yourself, and perhaps even want the opportunity to have your own starport in that chain that's going to bridge between the bubble and Barnard's loop, then there is a forum thread that has all the details that you will need to in order to do that. I'm going to link that in the video description. The forum thread itself does have some basic instructions. It also has a link to a Discord server where all of this is being coordinated from. So yeah, exciting times for Elite Dangerous, because not only are Frontier really hammering out the updates and putting some pretty good updates out there, but this is really capturing the imagination of the community again, and it kind of feels like we're seeing a resurgence of Elite. We're kind of getting back, not quite to the golden era of Elite, but you know, almost, and who knows, maybe we will exceed that period in the not too distant future. It's all coming together very, very nicely indeed, and I'm really pleased to see it. And it's actually, well, I'm just glad to see so many people enjoying it. At any rate, is this something you'd like to get involved with yourself? Do let me know in the comments section below. Again, there's also those links there if you do want to go check it out. Thanks for watching this video all the way through. There is another one on the screen right here if you want to look at that as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Do take care.